You see where the reference range should be? And do you see what the reference range should be like for premenopausal? Well, actually this person was postmenopausal, so she was through menopause. This person, she was postmenopausal. It tells us on the top of the page, menopausal status. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we look at that, we can tell that for postmenopause, it should be between 1.0 and 3.2, and she's less than 1.0. So this person would need a little bit of estrogen to balance her out. But when we look at her progesterone levels, even though like her estrogen was low, we look at her progesterone levels and we go to see the reference range for her. For postmenopausal, it should be between 18 and 126. You see that?
She's 60.
So what would you say about her progesterone?
Very low.
Yes, yes, very low. So then when we get to the ratio of progesterone to estrogen, and her result was 16.10, we go to the right. For postmenopausal, what should it be? Do you see that?
200 to 600.
Yes,
Wow.
yes. So even though her estrogen wasn't real high, because the progesterone wasn't high enough to offset the bad effects of the estrogen, she would be called estrogen dominant. Okay, because she didn't have enough progesterone. So estrogen dominance simply means not enough progesterone. That's what that means. Okay, simply put. So if we don't have enough progesterone, we can have insomnia because it is the calming hormone. It is the one that relaxes us and helps us to sleep at night. Anxiety is one of the major aspects of low progesterone too. So different women, there's different menopausal symptoms. Some women are like hot flashes, keep them up all night, you know, and it just really drives them crazy. And they have to strip off their clothes.
I have a few friends like that.
Yes.
What makes me scared.
So that means that their estrogen is going to be on the low side. Okay, so they need a little bit of help. But the progesterone, if you're too low, then you'll have anxiety when you go through menopause. Usually you don't have hot flashes at all. You have the anxiety. Okay? And then it can cause you to have cravings, addictions, food cravings. And then also migraine headaches. You can have fuzzy thinking, difficulty concentrating. You can be bossy or aggressive if the progesterone is too low because the estrogen's going to dominate. Okay? And also you can have water retention if the progesterone's too low because the estrogen's going to go high. Estrogen's a bigger molecule, progesterone's a smaller molecule, so estrogen tends to take over. Okay? And usually the only time the progesterone is high is if you are pregnant or if you're on hormone replacement therapy. That would be progestin is what they're using nowadays, which is not a natural, that's not a natural progesterone, so that also causes cancer. And then morning sickness, of course, if your progesterone's too high, it's probably because you're pregnant, you know. So you're going to have the fatigue and morning sickness that goes with it. Okay, so I'm going to quickly also show you what happens with testosterone. So if testosterone, and I know this is a little smaller print, but if testosterone is too high on women, it can cause us to have polycystic ovarian syndrome. It can cause us to be more competitive. We can become aggressive. We'll have insulin resistance, but also obesity is what happens if testosterone is too high for us. Now, one of the things that can make testosterone too high for us is, again, the diet, okay, the high glycemic index. But also the other thing that can make testosterone go real high is over-exercising, doing more exercise for our body than we really need. And we've seen this in a lot of our hormone tests. That's why, like bodybuilders who are, you know, really intense bodybuilders, I know whenever I worked at the Complete Physique, that those bodybuilders, the women that would compete, go to national competition, their periods would stop like 6 months after they started their workout. and then they wouldn't have any more periods, and that's because the testosterone went too high. So we don't want that. For guys, that's great because it's a protector for them, but not for us. Okay? So also, what will happen is we can also end up with acne, high blood pressure, and excessive facial hair. Okay? So if you know anybody that has excessive facial hair, I know a couple of my relatives it's that way for them, but that's because the testosterone's too high. If you take progesterone, it offsets that testosterone. So if you do notice that, you know, as you go through menopause or perimenopause, if you start getting too much facial hair, then that's also another indicator that your progesterone is too low.
It's just
Okay?
not a natural thing that's supposed to happen.
Right.
Oh, okay.
It's not. It's not. So there's an imbalance there. And then if testosterone is low on us, then we can get depression, we can have memory problems, Alzheimer's, and low libido. So it's important that that you get the saliva hormone test done, because that will tell us if your testosterone's too low. Okay? And then we look at men. If their testosterone is too high, then they get moody, short-tempered. These are the men who don't marry, or they'll marry later in life, and they go from like one woman to the next, okay? Because their testosterone's real high. Moody, they have temper issues, they don't want to settle down. Those are the guys whose testosterone's too high. Usually it's going to be later in life when their testosterone levels start going down, like after 40, that they'll actually get married.
Wow.
Interesting, huh? And then if it's low, if their testosterone is too low, then they'll have lack of energy, erectile dysfunction, poor
They
memory.
can't marry either. Sorry.
It's funny. Thanks, Mom.
I'll be quiet.
Well, the problem is they marry and then want someone to live with them. They want someone to put up with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just want someone to take care of them, right?
A mommy.
Yeah, right, a mommy. But for men, if their testosterone goes too low, then they will develop diabetes and insulin resistance. So you see it's opposite on men than it is on women. If our testosterone is too high, then we develop insulin resistance and diabetes. But if men's testosterone is too low, that's when they get the diabetes, insulin resistance. Yeah, okay. And then the adrenals, the reason I put this down here is because we do test your DHEA. If the DHEA is too high for women, then they will also develop obesity, facial hair. If it's too low, DHEA, then they'll have adrenal fatigue and immune dysfunction. DHEA is one of the best things that we can do for lupus. People who have lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, DHEA really helps them. So
That's something you can take. You can take
Yeah.
DHA.
right, we have 2 different companies that we get our DHEA from. Yep. So, but for men, if their DHEA is too high, then usually it's because it's there's a tumor on the adrenals.
Oh.
Okay. They're supposed to have high DHEA. If it's too low, then they'll have fatigue, diabetes, depression, abdominal fat, craving for sweets, and mental fog, low libido. Okay. So that's another important hormone is that DHEA. And Justin's going to talk to us about thyroid. Whenever you're ready, Justin. Okay.
Can I give you my paper?
Yes. Thank you. You'll notice too that you have a paper that tells you what to do. It is your hormone solution. So when you go through this hormone solution, you'll notice that if you have any of these issues that are on the left of the page, what's on the right of the page will actually fix the problem. Okay? And overall, what women have to have, we need our fish oil, our flaxseed oil, our vitamin D. Those are 3 of the most important things that we can take to balance our hormone.
Fish oil,
That's all for the low thyroid, or just in general?
That's in general.
Okay.
Mhm.
Flax.
Flaxseed oil. And vitamin D.
Just add that to the list.
There you go. Yep. And so vitamin D helps you not to be insulin resistant. It helps to prevent that from happening. Vitamin D is actually a hormone. Okay, and I'm gonna let Justin take over. You want that?
Sure.
Okay.
Just, 15 minutes after I want to do right
You have 15 minutes.
Okay, so you're done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so first of all, we're going to go over signs or symptoms of hyperthyroid. Hyperthyroid is not something that is as common as low thyroid, so I figured we'd get this out of the way. But the symptoms of a hyperthyroid are very disturbing for people. And basically, the biggest danger of a hyperthyroid situation is that it will wear your heart out. So your heart beats 100,000 times a day. And in a hyperthyroid situation, it can beat 150 to 200,000 times a day. So it would just basically, it just wear out too quick. And so that's the danger with a hyperthyroid situation. Hyperthyroid, a lot of times, is going to be caused by possibly a cyst on the thyroid or a non-cancerous tumor on the thyroid. These are some different kind of anomalies that can cause hyperthyroid. Even an autoimmune disease called Graves' disease, where your body is attacking your thyroid. When the antibodies attack the thyroid and destroy tissue, then your thyroid accidentally spills more hormone out than it should be, and that can be a hyperthyroid situation. So some of the symptoms of hyperthyroid are going to be sleeplessness, anxiety, irritability, racing thoughts. You're hot when everybody else is fine. Now, of course, a lot of these sound like an estrogen deficiency as well, but these are also signs of a hyperthyroid. Weight loss, and then finally the rapid heartbeat. So that's one of the easiest ways to tell, though, is by the heart rate. That's one of the easiest ways to tell if the thyroid is hyper. But next thing we're going to talk about is a low thyroid or a hypothyroid. Now, this is much more common. About 40% of Americans have this, they estimate. Only 7% are diagnosed. So there's a real problem with being able to identify people, at least in the current system, with a low thyroid. It's just not happening at this point. Signs of a hypothyroid are fatigue, weight gain, low resting body temperature, having difficulty thinking or cloudy thinking, fuzzy thinking, depression. Depression is a sign of hyperthyroid. Always being cold, and then hard to wake up in the morning and hard to get going. So fatigue for a hypothyroid is easier to understand, just because thyroid controls how fast your cells run. So if they're not running fast enough, you're going to not have literally the energy manufactured in the cells, and therefore be literally lacking cellular energy. Weight gain, once again, your metabolism slows down. So you really don't need to eat as much as you're eating calorie-wise, because your body just can't literally burn it. It can't convert it into energy. Low body temperature, another metabolism issue. So that's I think most of you guys have done the underarm temperature test. And low body temperature is low resting body temperature. Basically tells us how much hormone's getting in your cells, if there's enough. Fuzzy thinking and depression. The reason this is because your brain, if you just lay there in bed all day long, 24 hours a day, you will burn 1,000 calories just by your basic metabolism and just your brain working. So your brain is a major calorie burner. A lot of metabolism happens in the brain. That's another reason why the brain needs thyroid hormone, because it needs to be able to operate. It runs very fast. And if it's not running correctly, there can be brain chemistry deficiencies or imbalances because of a low thyroid situation. Brain's not able to make its brain chemistry, and then because of not enough thyroid, then you've got depression, anxiety disorders, OCD, things of this nature. And then always cold is once again that metabolism issue, as well as hard to wake up in the morning. So when in that first 30 minutes that you get up and get out of bed, that energy that you have is going to be based on thyroid. After that first 30 minutes, then you've got your adrenals kick in, and your adrenals start help you get going. But the first 30 minutes, if you're real sluggish, that's going to be kind of a thyroid insufficiency.
So
that's
what does
kind
it
of
do
a
to
sign.
people when they drink coffee in the morning?
That just gets your adrenals going quicker.
Oh.
That gets them. But the other thing that it does, people who drink excessive coffee, it can actually disconnect the hypothalamus, which is the master of all hormones. It can disconnect the hypothalamus from the pituitary, and the pituitary is what tells your thyroid how hard to work. The hypothalamus tells the pituitary what to do. So, but it can disconnect those two, and then you can develop thyroid issues based on a brain disconnect, basically. So.
And that's any caffeine drink?
That really, it's more along the lines of excessive caffeine. You know, you were talking
Soda.
about, yeah, drinking a lot of caffeine through the day type thing can disconnect it.
Or your energy drinks.
Your energy
About
drinks
that.
would be very excessive caffeine.
Yeah.
So anyway, those were the kind of the signs of low thyroid. So the thyroid test that I do, some of you guys have done it. It basically checks about 10 different steps that the thyroid has to go through in order to make sure that that everything is happening from your brain all the way down to getting into the cell. Because if it doesn't make it into the cell, then it doesn't matter. That's the same with your female hormones, estrogen, progesterone, even testosterone. If it doesn't get into the cell, it doesn't matter. And that's why we do the saliva hormone testing. They don't, as of yet, have saliva thyroid hormone testing. So that's why we even do the underarm temperature test, because once again, it has to get into the cell. So anyway, that's kind of the skinny on thyroid.
To do the thyroid test, Justin, also, we have people go to the lab that's up the street, right?
Right, Dr. Dickerson's office, she opened a lab up in her office, so that's where we get the draw done anyway. So.
And instead of it being $328, it's $250 for people doing weight loss.
Yeah, the weight loss, I don't have it here, but there's a special reduced rate for the thyroid. If you haven't done thyroid testing and you think, like, this sounds like me, there's kind of a special pricing on the thyroid testing
And
for you guys, because you're special.
what's included in the thyroid testing? Can you tell us about the different hormones, TSH and TSH?
You know, I would have to get the one that, and I don't know. You just have to get me the book.
It's $250, Justin.
It's $250. Oh, can I see that paper? Because, okay. So what this thyroid profile tests for, it's normally $813, and that's of course the really high price. That's like what they charge insurance for this particular test. And then the one some of you guys have done is the $1,300 test for 70% off of that. This particular one is for members. It's $250, and what it does is it checks your TSH, which is the one that is the brain hormone that tells your thyroid how hard to work. Then it checks your T4, your free T4, which is what your thyroid makes. So that's 4 iodine molecules clumped together, T4. In the liver, in the digestive tract, and in the brain, your T4 is turned into T3, which basically the body breaks off one iodine atom, making it into T3. And the correct iodine atom has to be broken off, but that T3 is what fits into your cell and revs the cell up increases your metabolism. And then this test also checks reverse T3. It makes sure that you're not breaking off the wrong thyroid or the wrong iodine atom,